and welcome to Because School Means More, the podcast where we explore what true inclusion looks like in schools and how we can make it a reality. Each episode will share real stories, practical strategies, and insights from schools that are leading the way in inclusive education. Whether you're an educator, a parent, or someone passionate about inclusion, this podcast is for you. Everyone is welcome here. Because School Means More is brought to you by the Inclusion Partnership. My name's Jo Wilkinson and I'm the Inclusion Partnership Manager and podcast host. I'm joined by some co-hosts and guests for each episode. Our mission is to create real change by building an inclusion movement, a network of schools and organisations committed to inclusive relationships and inclusive provision for every child. Join us as we break down barriers, share success stories and work together to build schools where everyone belongs.
Because school means more.
Hi everyone, welcome to today's episode of Because School Means More. We've got the sun shining out there and we've got another great episode to share with you. I'll start by introducing myself. So I'm Jo Wilkinson, the Inclusion Partnership Manager and podcast host. Over to you, Graham.
Graham Ferguson. I'm head teacher of the virtual school in Derby City and part of the Inclusion Partnership.
Hi, I'm Alison Bruce, assistant head, Senko and a few other hats, mental health lead at Derby Pride Academy.
And I'm Mark Hatton. I'm Derby Pride Academy's head teacher.
So we're really delighted, welcome and thanks for joining us today, but delighted to welcome Derby Pride Academy, who is a secondary school in Derby City, alternative provision site that we use and work closely with. And today we are talking particularly all about finding belonging. So it would be great to get started on the topic, but first of all, we're going to have a quick check-in question to get us warmed up and ready. So Alison, would you spin the wheel of inclusion? That was a very gentle little spin, that one, wasn't it? So, question 8. So, question 8 for both of you. There you go, nice easy one. What's your favourite film?
Oh, this is an older one. I think E.T. is my favourite film.
I love E.T.
Yeah, I remember that from many years ago, and it's one that I can watch and rewatch, and I have done over the years with my children.
Lovely. What about you, Mark?
I would never have guessed that. But anyway, me.
There you go, something you've learnt already then.
I am a secret Star Wars fan. So any Star Wars, all the modern day, right to the originals, but any kind of Star Wars, when I'm a poorly boy and I'm in my bed, I'm watching a Star Wars. I am watching a Star Wars film.
How many times have you watched one of the most popular ones then?
I'd say easily I've seen them all over 30 times.
Oh my God.
Wow. 30 times. I have to admit that I've never watched a single Star Wars movie.
Great. Can we end this now? Sorry.
I definitely think one of my brothers has watched it as many times as you. And I remember it always being on as a child, but I too have never watched a full episode, Graham, but I've watched snippets of loads. Let's spin the spinner again. Graham, will you spin it this time?
I will.
And we'll get one more question. Oh, question 1. Go on then, Graham, you can ask this one.
Question 1. So, what's the one thing you hope every pupil takes with them from your school?
Oh, I think the answer for me is actually in that question. I hope they take hope with them, that they are worth something and that they're going to go on to do great things in whatever capacity that means for the student. So, yeah, I think hope.
Great.
For
Mark?
me, memories, lasting memories, as well. Obviously we talk about schools being about exam factories, but for me as well, it's about developing the all-rounded person and that memories that those children get. And I think everything we do is to try and make them feel really special and included in school. So those memories mean a lot.
Nice. I think we forget that sometimes, don't we, when you talk about the exam factory. So just give us a little bit of context. So tell us a little bit about your school and the makeup of DPA.
So Derby Pride Academy, or everybody really knows it as DPA. We are a school located on Pride Park. We cater currently for 52 secondary school children. I think to be clear, really, we serve some of the most vulnerable children in the city. Most students have come to us are at threat of permanent exclusion, or they have been removed from education. In the last couple of years, we've had students come to us back through EHE, where they've been out of education some have been out for 3 years. So I think it's fair to say that DPA is very, very unique. I think until you've seen DPA, you don't really understand what it's about. But it's such a special place. It's a small building, but it's our small building. And we're very proud of what we've done there.
Yeah, and I agree. I think people sometimes have a preconceived idea of what an AP might be. And visitors that come in and visit the school, they can't believe the culture, the atmosphere, what you see and feel when you come into DPA. I think we are unique. We do a fantastic job for our students, and it's a brilliant school for the kids that we have.
And I think just to add to that, I think some of the children, we're well aware as staff that the children who are being referred to us often don't want to come to us because they're being taken away ultimately from their friends and their routines that they've known for 3 or 4 years at the secondary school. So I think that's where we have to really adapt and the welcoming environment that we put. It's not a show, it's what we do. We want children to want to come to us. And we've, the last couple of years, we've added a really detailed induction process. And I'm proud to say that no child comes into our school or onto our school role till they've spent an hour with each of our senior members of staff. And that's because I want them to feel relaxed the moment they step into the classroom. They know the staff, they know what we're all about. And I think that's worked really well.
Yeah. I mean, I've been with DPA since about a year after it started in 2012. And although the provision has changed over the years, the core of what we are is still there. It is for the students. It's about making those students feel belong and have hope for their future, that they can go out and do great things. And like you said, the memories at school it's been a good experience for them, because most of them have come to us feeling very disengaged from the school system, and that goes for the parents too.
So, and potentially let down or...
So although there's been changes over the years, fundamentally, that's what DPA has always been and is still for the students.
And it's interesting because, you know, in the early days of starting this work as an inclusion partnership, we'd led on a piece of research that DPA played a fundamental role in, which was to interview young people that were in alternative provision, to talk to them about their experience. And there was a lot of learning from that, some of which was quite shocking, really, that those young people had been made to feel that they failed. Yeah. They were frightened about their future. They didn't know where they were going to go for their next step in terms of alternative provision. I think they'd been given a fear factor a little bit from some of their previous teachers about what that meant and what that resulted in. That these children are already vulnerable children, as you've said, Mark, that it's really then thinking about if our work as a collective is to ensure every child can belong and thrive at school. For children coming to you, you're taking children that are vulnerable children from across the city that have already probably had a negative experience of education. It's not quite met their need in the way that they need it to or want it to. So, you know, we want every child to have that opportunity to succeed and thrive and feel safe and valued and welcomed at school. And those are words that you've used already, just setting the context. But let's just talk a little bit more then around belonging. What do you think belonging means in a school?
Yeah, it's wanting the children. We want the students to feel safe, have ownership of where they are. We want them to be proud of themselves, of their peers, of their school, and to feel safe. This is a place they want to come to and have pride in it. And I think that's really important because, like we've said, a lot of these students have become quite disenfranchised with education, and they come to us really scared, really nervous, and they leave as really, I'm going to say confident individuals that have thrived, not just done well, that they have learnt to thrive in the setting. And it's fantastic to see the journey of these students. It's so rewarding. It probably is one of the most rewarding jobs that I've ever had, to see the change in these students from what they come to us as to what they leave. And they come back to us. They keep coming back to us time and time again. They stay in touch.
They come back for the right reasons.
For the right reasons, to let us know. And that is fantastic to see that. We love to hear those stories. Yeah.
So how do you think you were able to do that? Because I guess the name is in the title of the school, alternative provision. what is alternative about the provision? Because I think a lot of people listening in will only know a mainstream school
Yeah,
setting,
yeah.
and they might think DPA, alternative provision. What does that actually look like, and how do you make it alternative? What makes it alternative?
I think the fundamental thing why it works for us is we get to know the students. I appreciate, with a maximum cohort of 52, it's not always possible to do what we do at a mainstream school. I think fundamentally we get to know the students, and it's unconditional acceptance for these students. Things may go wrong. That doesn't matter. Every day is a fresh start. The students realize that very quickly.
Right.
There's a lot of open communication. And if things go wrong, for example, one day and there's, the teacher might meet with a student the next day, we have a chat about things, and the student knows that they are respected and that we will listen to their voice. They have a voice. We listen to their voice. And it's that open two-way dialogue. So, yeah, I think that is fundamental, knowing the students, knowing what works. Everything is very personalised for our students.
Right.
And I think that's key.
I think touching on what you've just said, the original question is about the name. It's in our name, pride. So belonging for us is pride. I want our students to feel that they're proud of the school that they come to because of the experience most of them have had. And I'm not just talking about the students. A lot of it is with parents at the same time. They've had such a negative experience. And often on their induction meeting, when they come to see DPA for the first time, it's like, the question I get is, you're not going to ring me every day with bad news, are you? And I'm like, I am going to ring you, but we're going to ring you about the positives that your child's had. My mentality, which all my staff are doing and they've all brought into, which is absolutely brilliant. They have 5 lessons a day. If they have 1 negative lesson, let's concentrate on the 4 positives. And that's the feedback that's really, really important. Yeah. And it's about that pride that they've actually got. There's been recent issues we know across the country with different colours and wars and things like that, school wars. We've not experienced anything like that at DPA. It's been absolutely fantastic. And I know the police were really concerned because we've currently got 17 different schools on our roll. But actually our school has come together. We're DPA. We're Derby Pride Academy, which is absolutely fantastic. So it's that pride that the students take. And I'm not sitting here saying everything's perfect. We've got some very challenging students, but the majority of them absolutely love coming to school. And later on in the podcast, there's some stories we can share with you about, evidence around that, which is really, really positive.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
There's a statement that stands out in my mind from a parent, actually, that came for a review meeting with her child. And her comment was, "I've got my child back."
Wow.
For me, that's like a standout.
Yeah.
And I just love that. That made me feel quite emotional
I'm
listening
proud,
to that. Yeah. And I think that just resonates. That's what we're all about. Yeah.
Talking about parents and families then, clearly you've got a lot of different communities from across the city that are sending children in. I think it's a lot of mainstream schools talk about how it's more and more challenging to engage families that are living within that community, but that's got another layer of challenge for yourselves, I think, hasn't it? So just talk us through about how you build that relationships with parent carers and families.
I think it starts from the referral paperwork. The referral is really key, and we ask for as much information as we can get from the commissioning schools because we want to know this child. We don't want to know the child's vulnerabilities, and nothing to hide. We want to know everything, and then it links into what we call a pre-induction meeting, which is where the parent carers come onto school site. The commissioning school come across as well, so you've got that friendly face, and they meet Heather, who's our induction coordinator, and it's that sense of belonging right from the start and what we're all about. And it's a nice informal meeting. Yes, we have to cover the rules and things like that and the expectations, but it's more about what we do as a school or what we do.
Welcoming them in.
And welcoming them in, exactly. And that's what it is. And at that point, where if I'm on site or a member of senior staff will always pop into that meeting and say hello just to make that child feel, oh, okay, the head teacher's come and said hello. And I think it's just that little thing that you can benefit from, and I know Alison's touched on it, but being a smaller school, we just have an opportunity to be that bit more personable with everybody, and I think that really, really helps and drives it.
And do you see immediately within that meeting almost that young person starting to feel a bit more comfortable already, and the family feeling the same, that they can start to build that trusted relationship with yourselves and understand that this is going to be a positive next step?
I think that's the induction process does, I think, sort of probably allay some fears of the parents. And yes, for some parents, it's a step-by-step process because they've might have had struggles with mainstream with their child. So they, again, might have become a little bit disengaged like their students. But they get to know very, very quickly that we are there. If there's any concerns, problems, we are there. Mark is a very visible head, that he's very accessible for parents as well, which they like. So I think we build trust very, very quickly.
And then clearly a large proportion of the young people that you're working with on a relatively short-term basis, so potentially 12 weeks, maybe longer. How do you then, and we'll talk specifically about some examples of young people in a moment around that journey, but how do you then as a school support that young person with their next step at reintegrating back into their mainstream setting? Because clearly they've built that relationship with you and you've given them that opportunity to feel safe, feel proud of where they are and build their confidence. But it's a big next step then, isn't it, to go back into that environment? How do you prepare them for that?
Reintegration is everything, and I think we've always been very clear as a leadership team that reintegration is key. But how we approach it at DPA is it's on a pupil by pupil basis. We understand that some pupils are desperate to reintegrate back into the mainstream school, but we also get the other side where students are desperate to stay with us.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you've got the commissioning school that are like, what's right? And I think the key to it is open dialogue. We don't make any promises, but we have regular communication with commissioning schools, and we look at what's right for that child.
And that plan flexes by the sound of it.
The plan can flex. So somebody who was going to be with us for 2 terms might have reintegrated after 12 weeks. The opposite of somebody who was going to be with us for 1 term might complete the whole academic year with us. But I think from a reintegration point, it's stakeholder engagement and it's what's right for everybody, because the reason some people thrive at DPA is because of the setting that they're in. The setting helps, and the smaller class sizes. If you're going from a school where you've only got a maximum of 10 in your lesson, there's so much work we do with them, so much therapeutic work at the same time, so much intervention that goes on. But at the end of the day, they ultimately might be going back to a mainstream school with 30 children in, and all of a sudden they're lost.
The environment changes again, doesn't it?
They've got a voice. They've got a voice at our school, and they don't always have a voice when there's 1,500 children in the school. But I think on reintegration, it's the key word is it's on an individual basis and what's right for that children. We offer support, so a lot of my members of staff will go into commissioning schools as part of a reintegration package. So my induction coordinator will always go to the first meeting, and then we will reach out and say, how can we help? What can we do? How's this child getting on? Some commissioning schools take us up on it, and some key staff that they had at DPA will go across. Others are, they're thriving. They don't need that.
So without naming names then, do you want to talk through a couple of examples of some individual journeys and what that's involved for listeners to kind of be able to think through a little bit more about the impact of that work?
Yeah, so if I go straight away with an EHE example, there's a
Sorry, Mark, just explain what EHE is in case listeners don't.
So elective home education.
Yeah.
So these children have been educated at home for any length of time. One of the particular children I want to talk about, been out of education for 3 years.
And a rising number nationwide, but in the city as well, we're seeing more and more children are becoming home educated.
Yes, they certainly are, which is obviously very, very worrying. And I also know it's very worrying for mainstream schools. And I feel they're doing everything they can, but ultimately it's the parents' decision and they're coming out. So, but, I've got students who have attendance at mainstream school of, the lowest. I've got one who had 8% attendance.
Wow.
I've got one who was on our roll who had 22% attendance. And these children have come to us over a sustained period of time. We're now talking 6 months, and their attendance is above 60, above 70, and we've got a couple of them who are above 80%. And I know that that's not at a national average, but it's what we talk about. But the
pre and post is huge, though, isn't it?
And that's what I talk about. What is success? If a child attended school 10% of the time, and they're now attending 50% of the time, we need to celebrate that success.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when they walk in, it's not, where were you yesterday? It's so good to see you. I'm so glad you've come in today. And that's at the heart of everything we do.
And it's not only the EHC students, most of the students that come to us, their increase in attendance is incredible. We know they are happy coming to us. They're settled and they want to come in. So yeah, like Mark said, if you go from 10-12% attendance up to 75, that is absolutely incredible.
Huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But a question I've got then is, you talked a bit about the smaller class sizes and young people enjoying the smaller class sizes. But what is the alternative provision? Do you do anything different in terms of provision and what actually students do in a classroom
What's
that
a
makes
typical
them
day
want to
look
belong?
like?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, well, we try and run alongside mainstream as well with our curriculum, because the aim is to reintegrate as many students as we can. So they will do their GCSEs, for example, in the Key Stage 4 in English, maths, science. So we do run a curriculum so that they can reintegrate suitably back and still be up
And
with the
continue
work.
to learn whilst they're with you.
Absolutely. We do some BTEC qualifications as well for the students. Alongside that, we run the therapeutics and the pastoral support, like we run Thrive program. There's a lot of mentoring, and the students all know that if at any point during the school day they are struggling, they can go and see somebody. So that pastoral support is there
really important
all
for
the
them,
time to support the students. So yeah, it's a mixture of pastoral and running a sort of not mainstream, but some of the mainstream subjects up to GCSE level for the students. Our Key Stage 3 provision is slightly different. That's run along a more nurture type provision, because we found since COVID that some of the Key Stage 3 students were struggling with the provision we had before. So a more nurture type provision seems more suitable at this point. So it's something we started a year ago. So we're tweaking as we go along. But I think that's working really well, isn't it, for the Key Stage 3, the more nurture type provision?
I think the key word is evolve. I think DPA evolves, and I think we have to move with the times. We have to serve the cohort of children that come in. The cohort of children we've had in Key Stage 3 this year compared to last year are totally different.
Okay.
And I'm sure it will be again different.
Interesting.
But it's in what we've got to do is we've got to be, all our staff need to be agile and adapt to the need of what the commissioners are. And
I think that really links with a phrase that we use as part of the inclusion charter all the time, which is about meeting need at the point of need. So that evolution of that work and delivering it flexibly to meet the needs of those children is absolutely key.
It is key. And Graham asked a really good question about what makes us unique. And 2 years ago, we launched something which I'm incredibly proud of. Every child at our school goes on a school trip or an enrichment activity every single week. So
every week. Wow.
Every single week.
Very
so we run a very simple system. We have 5 classes. There's 5 days in the week. On the same day every week, they get the minibus and they go out on an enrichment activity. Sometimes, like Alison will think of sometimes it might be using public transport to go up to Sheffield, and it's, giving that experience to the children of buying the ticket, going on the public transport. There'll be a challenge or a task when they're there. It could be going to the Peak Districts and doing some orienteering. We've had them up at Lee Green. And I think what we've done is we've managed it on a tight budget. So when they go out on an enrichment trip, sometimes it's a free. We'll go to Bradgate Park, and all it is parking the minibus. But we'll give all the students cameras, and they will take pictures. It'll be a photography competition of taking the picture of the best deers at the park. But they're out there getting fresh air. And I will argue with anyone about the enrichment opportunities, and I'm so glad that the white paper has confirmed that.
And I think a lot of people listening in will look back at their school lives, and it'll be those moments that stand out. And you talked earlier about memories and creating memories and that sense of belonging and being outside in the fresh air and building those relationships with other people in a relaxed, fun environment.
We even took the students to London.
I was just going to say London.
It was absolutely incredible. If you said to me a few years ago, we're going to take, a whole AP school down to London on the train, I probably would have been a little bit nervous. We had the most brilliant time. The students absolutely loved it. The question at the end of the day was, can we go back? We want to do more. It was just, it was incredible. And for the students, it was such an eye-opener. Some of them hadn't been on trains. Some of them had never been to London. It was an incredible enrichment experience for them and for the staff as well.
So those experiences are so important, aren't they?
It's the memories that we spoke about, and they'll remember the day that they went on the train to London with Dr. Bruce.
And the confidence they gain from that, and the independence and life skills that they gain from that are there
Even
forever.
the soft skills, like when they go out on their enrichment, going to a cafe and ordering a drink.
And talking to other people.
The first few times they were like, Miss, can you go order for me? But it's just, building up those soft skills. And you're seeing these students become more confident individuals. It's lovely to see.
And I think it's fair at this point to mention the fantastic staff that we've got. The staff at DPA buy into what the leadership team want to do. They are so committed, and we say to all staff, the staff at DPA are qualified. They could work at any school in the city. They make a conscious choice
to work there,
to work at an AP with some of the most vulnerable children. And, the staff, the pupils will often say to me after because when they've been in the school for 2 or 3 weeks, I always just invite them into my office for a quick catch up. Say, how are things? And one quote that always stands, one pupil said, staff, they're a bit weird. I'm like, what do you mean by that? And they're like, they're so positive. They're always so nice. And I'm like,
wow.
And I'm like, they're like that because they want, that's what they want to do.
But what message has that young person had previously or elsewhere to kind of think that that's weird? Like that's quite sad, really, isn't it?
And I hear that a lot of time from students. They'll say to me, why are you working here, miss? Surely you can get more money working somewhere else. And when you explain to them, I want to work with students, but why would you want to work with us? It's that self-esteem and lack of confidence that they have. And it's like, why wouldn't I want to work with students like you? And it's kind of sad when you hear that in their own minds, they are thinking they're not worthy of an education like everybody else.
Yeah. And we talk all the time with schools through these podcasts, but also through our training and conferencing around building that inclusive culture. But talking about it, we talk now about moving from the knowing to the doing to the being. It sounds like you're proving to be very successful in terms of really embedding that inclusive culture. What are your top tips, or how do you see that working?
I think from me, it's that remembering what mainstream education's like at the same time.
Yeah, of course.
Everybody knows what my background was mainstream education, and it was thinking about what are the barriers in mainstream and how can we try and reduce that in an AP. But then you're asking the question, how can we reverse that back? And it's just that it's that making every child feel that they're wanted. And, the topic of this is around belonging, but, it's not wanted. It's actually belonging in this school. And this is my place, and this is where I come. Yeah. And, I think back to what we do, and mainstream schools do it at the same time. I remember being stood on the gate, but you've got thousands of children walking past you. It's just those little interactions, or in the dinner queue, just having
so
the conversation.
Important.
One of my most important members of staff is the same in mainstream schools. It's the lady who works in the kitchen, and she's called Carolyn. But the pastoral care that she can give those children, when other staff can't give them that, it's just that conversation with the lady in the kitchen can make such a difference. And I know it happens in mainstream school, but it's just so hard on a larger scale. So it's just making sure that everybody realises that everybody's got a role in this. It's not the teaching staff, it's not the support staff, it's everybody. It can be the receptionist the way we approach when somebody arrives late, you can jump down someone's throat straight away. Why are you late? Or it's great that you're here. Tomorrow, can we try and get here a little bit earlier? And it's just that kind of...
And just approach. Exploring why they're late and taking an interest in, maybe there's a genuine reason why they're late, which
that
sometimes
connection
they don't
before
get that
correction
chance
phrase again, isn't it?
They don't get that chance to explain themselves or feel as if they've got a voice in that.
They're met with positivity, aren't they? From the moment they step foot in the gates, marks on the gate, then they come in to myself and the DSL. We check in with the students, we have a chat, see how everybody is. Then they'll go for their breakfast. And again, all our staff are out, so they'll talk with the staff. There very much is this communal community feel. We want to know what you did last night. We want to know what's gone on. Are you feeling good today? Are you not? It's a community, and you feel that when you come there.
And clearly, as a member of staff, it comes across that you have that sense of community and that you're proud to work there. And as you explained, you choose to work there, and you're not weird at all for wanting to do that. And belonging, we're very much talking about it from a point of view around how do we ensure children have that sense of belonging, but how do you ensure all of your staff have that sense of belonging as well? Because we've got to get that right first, would you say, to work together and have that consistent language. And
but I think that that's a united front, and I think it's clear communication. I make the decision to have a staff briefing every single morning. We also end with a debrief at the end of the day, because it's not the leadership team, it's us as united staff. You know, I admit I'm at the top giving the key messages, but we all do it together, and it's really key that we listen, because I want staff to feel that they belong at DPA. You know, at the moment it's incredible. My turnover of staff is very, very low, which shows that we're doing something right.
Yeah.
And they buy into what we're doing as a school,
Absolutely.
because fundamentally everything we do is for the children. Everything is for the children. And I think, you know, I've got a saying that the staff laugh at me, but sunshine, showers with the occasional thunderstorm, that's AP. But when there is a thunderstorm, the staff rally round the pupil, they get it sorted, they make sure that the child's all right, they move on, and then we get them back in the lesson.
And ultimately, regardless of any of those weather conditions, you make the weather as members of staff for those children, don't you?
Absolutely. We're the place of safety for the students. Whatever's going on in their lives, we are that sort of port of call that's safe for them. And it's that unconditional positive regard. So, and they know that, the students, and they learn that very quickly, that we are that port of safety for them.
I sometimes think when people say, well, what's different about DPA? I don't think it's different about DPA. I think it's probably alternative provisions in general. But it's unique. The kind of children that we work with, they need that unconditional support. And I can guarantee that that's what they get when they come to DPA. And, you know, if I say to every single child that comes through the door, it doesn't work for everybody. But if you ask me a figure, I'd say 85, maybe even 90% of our pupils absolutely love coming to school. And when you think about the experiences that they've had, or not because of the negativity in the secondary school, but often it is because of they're being put in isolation, or they're being given detentions for not doing this and not doing that. We strip some of that barriers back, and by removing that, it eases the children in a little bit.
And that's where, you know, next week I'm lucky enough to be coming into your school at DPA to talk to young people, to get their voice around what an inclusive school looks like. And when we talk about the inclusion charter, what does that mean from a young person's perspective, both in AP but also in mainstream? So it'd be really interesting to come and meet them and hear that from them with their voice around what belonging means to them. And I think
when we've done pupil voice surveys, they almost unanimously tell us they feel safe and they feel a sense of belonging at Derby Pride, which is incredible.
I think sometimes what we perhaps need to do is why. And we need to dig a little bit deeper as to say why. Agree. What is it? But ultimately, when we do dig a little bit deeper, they'll fundamentally say, well, it's the staff and what you try and do for us.
Yeah, the staff want to have that unconditional positive regard, and they feel safe, secure. Yeah. I just thinking about it, it must be really difficult for some of those youngsters to go back in that turnaround place.
It is.
I'm thinking it must be really difficult, having come from a safe, secure place where they belong, to maybe back to where they didn't feel that necessarily. That'd be...
Well, what we do with that is we try and cover it. Like the reintegrations can be anything up to 8 weeks,
right?
And it's working in collaboration, working together with the other school and with the parents involved. What's right for that child, and sometimes it might just be that during the first week they might just go across for a meeting with the senior leadership team or the key workers, and then the other 4.5 days are with us, and then we just increase it. Right. Some have a much faster approach, and it might be that they reintegrate within 2 weeks. But it's that pupil...
Just down to their readiness factors.
Yeah, and it's that pupil need. It's all on that pupil need. And
it's lovely that those young people, or some of them, stay in touch and you hear from them again.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, some of the work we've talked about is, as a member of the school workforce, if you were to bump into a 25-year-old former student, what would you hope to see and hear from them?
I would hope to hear that they're happy and they're successful in whatever that looks like for them. And actually, I did bump into a student that was one of the first students I ever taught at Derby Pride, who is now at university, which is incredible. And he's asked, could he come back? He's joined up doing some sort of extracurricular stuff at university on knife crime. And he's asked, could he come back and talk to us about knife crime? And me, I'm like, yes, come in. And that's fantastic to hear a student and, you know, wanting to come back and sort of impart his knowledge and wisdom,
experience,
and experience, and bring that back to DPA. So love it.
And I think that's what some of our students love. Visitors, we will mop up as many external agencies, supports, etc. that can come in. We welcome everything. Our students like hearing stories and from different experiences. I think PSHE is something that we really, with the nature of our students, it's such a vital subject for us. And we have 2 lessons of that in the curriculum at each year group. But it's getting those external visitors in, and
Absolutely.
we work so hard on our PD offer, personal development offer, to make sure that actually the children are getting that support from outside agencies. So, it's like, I know I mentioned about Derby County Community Trust, that we've done a recent course on misogyny, which has been so well received. But what's really nice is it's the impact. And if some of those pupils have had an issue after, we work with the agencies and said, oh, this happened last week. Don't worry, we'll deal with that and we'll address it in the next session. It's those personalised approaches to get it right. So
we're very reactive. So things that happen in the community, we will respond very quickly and, get somebody in to speak of some of the issues that are going on, to make sure the students are aware and educated about things that might be affecting them. Our PSHE offer is great. And the students, like you said, Mark, they absolutely love the outside visitors coming in. We've had the VR knife crime people come in. That's always been a huge success that we do. So, yeah. Great.
And what's your vision as a school? Where do you see yourself kind of going and growing and developing?
It's up in the air at the moment, but I think that with how things are at the moment, it's where does DPA expand? DPA is a very small building, but it's also what makes us quite unique. So it's assessing risk at the moment of, do we look at expanding and open another building? Do we look at post-16 provision? Because I also think that the work and the unconditional support that we give our year 11s, I do then think, well, what happens in November? And they'll all go on to post-16, but they haven't got in October, they haven't got Dr. Bruce checking in to make sure that they're okay.
The next step, yeah.
And I know, I think there is a bit of need in the city. I know that some of the other APs are exploring that, and I think that's a really good move for them. But for DPA, it's looking at what's right and being agile with the city. What does the city need? And, at the moment, Key Stage 4 demand is quite high. We're oversubscribed on Key Stage 4 students, but there's also demand for Key Stage 3 at the same time, isn't
absolutely.
it? So, I'm not breaking any records here. I don't know whether we're going to expand, but it's certainly something that as a leadership team we're thinking about and we've considered at recent SLT meetings.
And I would just say, if I had a wish list and a pot of money, I would love to see a post-16 provision, because you're right, we do so many good things with them at the Key Stage 4. I would love to be part of that moving on journey for them as well, and have a post-16 provision.
I was just going to say, people often say, can we not build up? And, another level at DPA, it may help. But, I've said that DPA is a unique place. We do struggle sometimes with a lack of green space around us, but we've overcome those barriers and we make sure that students get the offer that they need. But space is quite tight at the moment around where we are. So.
And if I could ask you something that you're most proud of about DPA, so if you were out at a dinner party with people that don't work in this field, and you talk about DPA, what is it that you're most proud of as a school?
Without doubt, it's the students. Without a shadow of a doubt, students. And people think, well, the most vulnerable students. How can you explain to somebody who doesn't know anything about education that a child's come to you on their record 38 suspensions? So on their record, they've got 38 suspensions. They've come to us and they fly for a year and they leave with 5 qualifications at the end of it with no further suspensions. And,
that's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's interesting because the key lines of inquiry that we use around the work that we're doing as an inclusion partnership have cropped up all the way through this conversation. So we're talking about exclusions, suspensions, attendance, elective home education, all key sort of areas for us that we're challenged to look at as a city and think about how we can improve that data around those different areas. But it sounds like you've got some huge success there in the difference that you're making to those young people.
We have, and it's overwhelmingly positive. And you've just asked me about what's the biggest success. I've said unquestionably the students, but I'm equally proud of what the staff do.
Yeah.
we couldn't do and have what we've done in recent years without the hardworking staff that we've got. And the level of pastoral support that our students receive is absolutely second to none. And that comes from caring, passionate staff.
So if we've got people listening to this that work in a school that want to just think, what could the top tips be that they might be able to consider? And it might be their everyday practice, or it might be as wider as a school to take back and think about. What would those top tips look like?
The big one for me is the curriculum. I think you've got to get the curriculum right. And I haven't mentioned yet, but a couple of heads have been across and looked at our curriculum because they're looking at evolving their own AP on site, which is absolutely the right thing to do. And it's, we talked about the enrichment offer that we do. I know a number of secondary schools will be rolling that out in September, which is absolutely fantastic. And it's collaborating and sharing success.
Yeah.
So the curriculum offer, the balance of the curriculum, that what I think we've got right at our curriculum at the moment, and it may have to evolve, but we've got the right level of academic, vocational and enrichment added with that pastoral support.
It's still having those high expectations for the students. We are still ambitious for the students, and it all comes together, the curriculum, the pastoral support, and it suits the children and allows them to progress and make really good progress.
And all of this aligns so closely to the values of the work that we're trying to achieve through myself and Graham and others around the Inclusion Charter and the work of the partnership. Without wanting to kind of blow trumpets and stuff, but how would you say the Inclusion Partnership has supported you to kind of achieve this at DPA?
I think when you look at the Inclusion Partnership, I think all the vision and values is what we are living and breathing every day. If I'm perfectly honest, we talk about. In fact, I think I've done a whole interview here, and I've not used the word relationships. But everything we've spoken about, relationships flow through DPA, and the relationship the staff and the students have is just incredible. And I think how the inclusion, the ethos that what's being adopted in Derby City is what we live and breathe for at DPA. So.
We did a CPD after one of your sessions, Joe, and when I, gave the staff the strands of what it means to be an inclusive school, they were like, we do that, we do this, and they mind mapped out exactly what we do. And it was actually, I was quite proud looking at that, thinking, we do that, and they do recognise what we're doing. It was, it has been really useful, the Inclusion Partnership for us. So,
and hopefully we can help through things like this and other platforms share each other's approaches as well, so that we can learn from each other through those network meetings and through other training and resources as well. Because I think that's what we don't get the opportunity to do enough, is it? Just lift our head up sometimes and hear about other schools and other approaches. We're all being busy.
Even doing this, talking about it now, I think it does bring to the forefront. Yeah, we do some really great stuff, and sometimes when you're living it day to day, you don't always see what you're doing.
You don't see the innovation and you don't see the progress and the achievements,
So before we sort of spin the wheel for the last sort of time to do a checkout question, I'm going to ask you, if your school had a motto for inclusion, absolutely you are inclusive, what would that motto be? What would you have above the school doors?
That's a really good question.
Everybody belongs, everybody learns.
Yeah. Can you just pause that? Because I want to give a good answer to that. I don't want to give the wrong answer. See,
progress over perfection.
Progress over perfection. There you go. Everyone belongs.
Yeah, I think the other thing is like our values of like DPA is determination, pride, and ambition. Okay. And I want to make sure that our children come in, and one of the things, they've got no ambition. They often will sit and, what do you want to do when you leave school? Well, I don't know. It's like, well, we're going to help you. We're going to help you with that. And that's where enrichment comes in, and we'll take them around Derby Uni. We'll take them to warehouses. We'll give them whole different experiences. But it's that pride. I can't stop coming back to pride. And I think if they are proud to come to DPA, I think we're halfway there. And I think that's what we work on.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. Let's spin the wheel and get a couple of checkout questions, shall we? Do you want to go for it, Alison?
Here we go.
Oh, what are we going to stop on? Number 3. So, What's a small moment from this week that reminded you why you do this work, apart from today's podcast?
Actually, that's an easy one for me because I actually mentioned it when we had an SLT meeting the other day. We've had a student that's reintegrated back to her school, and she's still friends with one of the students at our school. And the student came in and said, "Miss, so-and-so said she really misses you and loves you and to tell you hi and give you a hug." And that melted me. That really melted me. And I thought that makes it all worthwhile.
And actually, how lovely that they build friendships at DPA that they maintain beyond DPA.
Yeah.
You know, if and when they go back into their setting, their mainstream setting, they've still got those friends to call upon, haven't they? Which is invaluable.
I did have a little boast about that one. It was.
Oh yeah.
It hardened. It softened my hard heart.
I wouldn't say it was a small boast. I think you've been quite excited about that.
Come on, Mark, is there one for you, small moment this week?
Yeah, I had a couple of conversations with parents, children who've been really anxious. We've been doing their art exam this week, and parents have been, I'm really worried that they will be absolutely fine. Give us the heads up. And, thanks for giving us the heads up. Give the key messages, blah, blah, blah. And then they've sat, and to say now, we've just left 24 students doing their GCSE art exam at DPA.
Wow.
And the proudness, and one of the students just before I left said, I just need to ask one thing, sir. He says, can I please take a picture because I want to show my mum what I've done.
Oh.
And for a year 11 lad to say that to me, who's got numerous suspensions on his record, it just, wow, of course you can.
Yeah.
Of course you can. And then we'll give your mum a call to say how proud we are of you as well.
So it goes right back to that conversation about having phone calls with parents for good reasons rather than bad reasons.
Yeah, absolutely.
Should we spin it one last time? Go on, Graham.
Okay.
You can ask the question. Oh, question 12.
Oh, number 12. If you could sum up your school in one word, what would it be?
We've sort of done that a little bit.
Yeah, we did.
We have.
Go on, sum it up nicely, Steph.
Well, I could just say the word proud or proud.
Right, yeah.
Proud or proud.
And I would go hope.
Hope. Brilliant.
Fantastic.
Two
Really
lovely
good.
words to finish on. So hopefully you've enjoyed that. I've really enjoyed hearing all about what you're doing at your school, and clearly it is relational, inclusive, and you should be very proud of the opportunities you're giving already vulnerable young people to have the best possible future and opportunities ahead of them. So thank you for all you're doing, and thanks for coming to share with us.
Thank you for the opportunity to share what we do.
It wasn't as scary as we thought it was going to be, was it?
It wasn't, no.
Brilliant. And thanks, Graham.
Pleasure.
Thanks very much, everybody. We'll speak to you again soon.
Thank you.
I actually enjoyed that. I'll go as far as to say I
There you
actually
go.
enjoyed it. I was very nervous, but
We
I
can keep
ended
that
up.
bit in. That's a wrap for this episode of Because School Means More, brought to you by the Inclusion Partnership. We hope today's conversation gave you new insights, ideas and inspiration to help make schools more inclusive for everyone. Real change happens when we work together. So, if you're inspired by what you heard today, we'd love for you to be part of the inclusion movement. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Share this episode with colleagues and connect with the Inclusion Partnership. Thanks for listening.
Because school means more.